Welcome everyone, it's pretty early around here, but news are news. And news are especially news when we are talking about specs being changed. When we're talking about buffs or nerfs to specs, talents and abilities, or when we are talking about the tier sets of patch 10.1, the tier sets of Season 2 being changed. And that is what we have for today. Blizzard has announced some changes to the specs. In particular, the biggest of the changes is going to Devastation Evoker in terms of talents and abilities, and then a whole bunch of tier sets being modified for the next season. So we have some good news, and then we have some bad news in the form of not having news for some specs that were expecting some changes. So the first in line is the DK spec. In this case, it's just one because it's Frost. Now, funnily enough, the two-piece of DK gets nerfed. The current two-piece, very important, the Vault of the Incarnates two-piece of DK gets nerfed. The damage of Obliterate and Frostbite go from 15% more damage to 10%, while the next season's two-piece is buffed. Howling Blast damage is increased by 20% instead of 10%. This is going to be happening to some other specs. Apparently, this is a precaution from Blizzard in case specs in the next season were going to use two pieces from the old tier and two pieces from the new tier. So basically benefiting from the two-piece set bonus of two different tier sets. Apparently, they don't want that to happen, so they are going to be nerfing a few of the current two-piece set bonuses for the next season, just to make sure that the specs go on and use the new tier rather than sticking with the old. That is also exactly what happens to Demon Hunter, to Havoc Demon Hunter. Chaos Strike and Blade Dance have a 20% chance to increase the damage you deal by 5% instead of 8%. This is also from this current version of the tier set, not from the next season's tier set. Yet another nerf to the current set in Vault of the Incarnates. This one is to Survival Hunter. Raptor Strike, Carve, and Butchery damage is increased by 12% instead of 15%, and also so goes the 4-piece set bonus. Raptor Strike, Carve, and Butchery are no longer free, but instead cost 10 less focus, and they do 40% increased damage instead of 50% increased damage. So these are all nerfs to the current tier sets we have right now in the first season, not nerfs to the sets from the next season. Where we do start seeing the first of the changes, the first of the significant changes for patch 10.1 is to Priest, and in this case is to Discipline, because it's a massive, huge buff to the tier set of Discipline. The tier set of Discipline was kind of terrible. And also now the change to the two-piece still keeps the two-piece set bonus kind of average. Now, instead of giving you your Power Shield having a 20% additional absorb, now Radiance Healing is increased by 15%. Now, Radiance Healing is not really that relevant for Discipline. The only thing, pretty much, that is relevant for Discipline is either doing more damage, so you heal more with Atonement, or more Atonement healing. That is basically all you do as a Discipline Priest. So the two-piece set bonus is kind of bad. However, the 4-piece set bonus, which gets reworked, is extremely strong. Previously, it was quite junky and quite bad. Every 3 casts of Power Shield causes your next Atonement granted by Power Shield to last 15 more seconds. It was still on single target on a single player, so it was definitely not that powerful. The new version of this tier set is Atonement applied by Power Word Radiance, so we are talking about your AoE Atonement, lasts 3 seconds longer, which is already pretty good. Your spells have a chance to cause your next Power Word Radiance to be instacast, to cost 100% less mana, and you can stack this up twice. This is extremely powerful in the raid. This is the type of talent you can use, the type of passive you can use, for example, while you are chilling during a boss, while there is not much damage, so you're not using your radiance, you are waiting for the big boom of damage. You have stacked this tier set bonus to 2, and then right as the damage is about to come, you can cast 2 instacast Fireward Radiances for free, no mana cost, and have a massive spread of atonement to your whole raid. This will make covering the entire raid with atonements very, very easy, with the amount of radiances that you can cast, and for free instantly. So it is significantly better than the previous version of the tier set for Discipline, which was also needed because the power of Discipline was sort of waning in the raid. So this is a good buff to the spec. Holy Priest also gets slightly changed, and by changed I mean reverted. The 2-piece set bonus of 10.1 gets changed to what was previously. Now, Prayer of Mending no longer has a 20% chance to duplicate to a nearby target when it jumps. Now, when you cast Prayer of Mending, you have a 35% chance that the effect is duplicated to another ally. This was the previous iteration of the 2-piece set bonus, so it gets changed to what Blizzard thought of initially. There is a nerf, once again another nerf, this time not a nerf to a current tier set, but a nerf to a 10.1 tier set. This one is to Outlaw. We pointed out before, when we gave our first ratings to the tier sets, Outlaw was one of the highest rated, because while being extremely boring, it was one that gave you the most damage amongst the tier sets, one of the higher damage tier sets. This one is nerfed by 2%. Now the damage buff that you gain by using the effect of your tier set, by using your Soul Rip, is not longer 7% agility increase for 15 seconds, it's 5% agility increase for 15 seconds. We also have a pleasant change to Warrior. This one is for Arms Warrior. One of the disappointing things was the focus that Blizzard was putting on Slam for Arms Warrior. Now, Arms Warriors don't really like to use Slam, so the change to the 4-piece set bonus of Arms is that Deep Wounds critical strikes increase the damage of your next mortal strike by 10% instead of the next Slam by 15%. And then all of the following bonuses, so doing extra damage to nearby enemies, stacking up to 3 times with damage reduced above 5 targets, it's still applied to Mortal Strike, not to Slam. So you no longer have to play around, you no longer have the idea of having to play around Slam if you have this tier set bonus, if you are an Arms Warrior. There is also then a slight change to Fury Warrior. Previously, Rampage was playing around Bloodthirst. However, now the 4-piece set bonus, unlike Arms Warrior, who is no longer going to play around the Slam, this one is still going to play around Bloodthirst. Rampage causes your next Bloodthirst to have a 10% increase critical strike chance, deal 25% additional damage, and generate 2 rage and stacking up 10 times. Previously, it was going to do 50% increased damage and stacking up only 4 times. So basically, to gain the same amount of damage, you sort of have to stack it up much higher than before. So technically, it's a slight nerf, having to wait for basically 8 stacks of this buff rather than 4 like you could before. However, in return for this, you also gain more crit chance. You also gain more stacking crit chance that you did not gain before for your Bloodthirst. These are all of the bonuses, all of the changes to the tier sets. As I said, there are also some changes to some specs, the specs as talents and abilities. One is to survival. This is not guaranteed, this is not official, it's only an idea for now, which is the aura modifier for the entire spec. This one is for survival. It seems like there is a planned 10% damage increase to the entirety of the spec. We have to see if this one makes it through the notes and into the actual PTR testing, as well as a 10-ish, roughly a 10% damage buff to Kill Command. Importantly enough, this is not a damage increase for Kill Command to Beast Mastery. It's only a damage increase to the Kill Command of Survival. but the major set of changes in terms of specs goes to Devastation Evoker. Arcane Vigor no longer gives you one essence, but it gives you an entire essence burst, so it's basically 3 times as strong as the previous version. You have Causality, which goes back to reducing the cooldown of your empowered spells by half a second per tick, rather than the more ambiguous cooling down 100% faster. Now it's much easier to understand how fast you can reduce the cooldown of your empower spells. You have another interesting change. Feed the Flames now makes you gain an entire free Firestorm after you cast 12 Pyres. This is particularly good because Firestorm is down the left side of your tree, which is currently too weak for Devastation Evokers to go and play, and this talent would allow you to still benefit from Firestorm in AoE without actually having to talent into Firestorm. There is also a change to Imminent Destruction, making you spend 1 less essence for 10 seconds for your Disintegrate Empire after you use your Deep Breath, compared to the bonuses you were gaining before, as well as another buff down the left side of the tree with Snapfire, giving you a higher chance to reset the cooldown of Firestorm. These are all changes to the talents of Devastation Evoker, nothing to do with the tier set, which also was not changed for Devastation Evoker. So all of these changes are changes planned for 10.1. They will be going on the PTR for testing. As I said, there were some good news for the specs that were being changed positively, like for example, Devastation was changed positively. You also had Frost Decay changed positively. We had Discipline Priest in particular, very, very positive changes to the tier set bonus, as well as Arms Warrior, positive as well. And then I mentioned the negative changes in the fact that some specs were not mentioned in here, who did not have a particularly brilliant set of tier sets, for example, like Guardian Druid missing, or like more importantly specs like Holy Paladin, and they're quite complained about tier set that is also missing from any changes, as well as mages. Quite a few complaints coming down the road for the 3 mage specs and their tier sets. They are also missing from any changes right now. So even though it is true that we were not quite expecting the patch 10.1, the next season, to come out so early, so just in less than a month, on the 2nd of May, there is still time, okay? We still have a window for more changes, for more tuning from Blizzard to make it into the PTR. I guess this was the first wave, this was the first round of changes coming after we got our announcement. With about roughly a month left, I'm sure there is still some room for some extra changes to the specs. For the ones who are still disappointed about the state of their specs right now, there is still some hope that they will be changed. However, these were all of the changes that we got for the moment. I guess I'm going to leave you to the rest of your day and your thoughts about these spec changes. So, leaving you starts, of course, by thanking all of the Patreon supporters for the contribution and the help to the growth of the channel. You can, as usual, support in multiple other free ways. You can like and comment down below on this video. You can also subscribe to the channel itself. You can also follow me over on my Twitter, as well as following me over on my stream on Twitch. So, with all of these social unpleasantries out of the way, thank you guys again for watching. See you guys soon, and in the meantime, poor Paladin. Just when I start thinking about playing Holy, we get a tragic tier set bonus for the next season. Of course I had to jinx it.